A report came out on Monday that said that whales were accumulating Solana more than any other crypto in the top 10, including Bitcoin and including Ethereum. And so in today's video, we're going to cover that report and then talk about why I believe this is the case and what we can expect going forward. So with that said, of course, let's begin. So starting here at the Digital Asset Fund Flows Weekly Report, let's get an idea of what the overall flows are looking like in crypto right now so you can see why Solana specifically is doing so well. So what we can see here is that the digital asset investment product saw an outflows totaling $54 million last week. That means $54 million flowed out of crypto into another asset class or cash in general. Now on top of that, blockchain equities also endured weaker sentiment last week, seeing outflows totaling $7.3 million, meaning that there are millions of dollars leaving crypto right now, which isn't of course a great sign. But let's get a little bit more in depth. Let's talk about what specifically is happening and which cryptos specifically are struggling, because it does paint a very interesting picture. So as we can see here, Bitcoin saw outflows of $31.8 million just in the last week. Now, interestingly enough, short Bitcoin also saw negative 23.1 or $23.1 million of outflows last week, meaning that although people are leaving Bitcoin or pulling their money out of Bitcoin, there are still also people who are losing on the other side, the bears who are losing on the other side, who are closing their short trades and starting to necessarily bet for Bitcoin, but gonna stop betting against Bitcoin. So yes, there is a lot of negative sentiment here with $31.8 million of outflows, but the fact that people are closing down some of these short trades does say that that negative sentiment isn't as bad as it would first appear. Now looking at Ethereum, we can see a negative 2.3 reading or $2.3 million outflowing from it over the last week. Not an absolutely terrible week, but on the year, I mean, this thing is still down negative 26 or $26 million of outflows from 2023's beginning to now, which again, not necessarily the best year. But let's get into something really interesting. So what we can see here is that multi-asset, on the other hand, which includes many of your other altcoins, is up about 0.1, which is decent, but Solana specifically is up 3.4 or $3.4 million of inflows just in the last week. Now, when we compare that to the negative 31.8 million or the negative 2.3 million for Ethereum, 3.4 million of inflows, and net inflows at that, is an absolutely amazing reading. This means that while people are pulling their money out of Bitcoin or pulling their money out of Ethereum, some people are putting their money into Solana. And so as you can see here, that's obviously starting to paint a very, very interesting picture that I think many people are just starting to recognize. Now, I know what many of you are wondering. Why Solana of all cryptos? Well, I think I have an answer for that. You see, I believe that Solana is facing a very similar situation as to XRP, especially over the last year. You see, the vast majority of the market has fallen over the last year, not only due to the cyclical nature of crypto, in which we have just bull markets and bear markets, but also what's happening macroeconomically from things like the recession, the war, inflation, and more. But what we can see for XRP and Solana specifically is that they are being impacted even more by their own specific catalysts, causing their prices to underperform, especially Solana in the last few months. I mean, for XRP, think about it. Of course, it's the lawsuit against the SEC that has caused its price to underperform. And from Solana, we can see that their catalyst is the fact that Alameda Research collapsed, which held 13% of their total token supply. And oftentimes what happens is that when there's a catalyst of this nature that causes extra sell pressure during the bad time, once that catalyst is resolved and that weight's no longer on that crypto's shoulders, we will see extra buy pressure in the good times. And I'm under the belief that the whales are sitting back and looking at all of the progress that Solana is making and coming to the realization that as long as they continue in the direction of growth that they're on right now, they very well can lift that weight off of their shoulders and get that extra incentive, that extra catalyst, and that extra buy pressure, especially when liquidity re-enters the market, which is the reason why they're still accumulating on it, even at these current prices. And when you factor in news like we got on Monday, it makes it even more the case. On Monday, we saw that Solana had finally accepted public orders for their new Web3 mobile phone, the Solana Saga. Now, according to their press release, potential users of the phone were assured of the capability of the phone to perform transactions in Web3, trade tokens, mint non-fungible tokens or NFTs, gaming on-chain, and to also access decentralized applications called dApps and much more. And in the words of their CEO, they want to provide a premium mobile experience that enables you to trade tokens while waiting in line for coffee, mint NFTs on your moving commute, and have instant access to the dApps that you love most, anywhere, anytime, all powered by Android. And although I don't believe that this is the most important aspect of Solana's ecosystem, I do believe that it goes to show that even during the times in which we're seeing right now, where Solana has been absolutely battered for 12 months straight, that they're capable of producing things that they believe will be important for their future ecosystems and their future development. I mean, think about it. If we see a run like we saw in 2021, I definitely could see people using their extra crypto money to go buy a crypto phone to make their crypto life easier. And of course, if they do that, being that Solana is the base native token of the phone, it very well could see a lot more volume and a lot more buy pressure as time does go on. Now, of course, that is up for debate and people can kind of make their own opinions about it, but I feel like the principle of the fact that Solana is still doing things like this even after Alameda Research did kind of destroy their price, at least in the short term, it goes to show that they are willing and capable of growing, which is what those whales are looking for in order to be under the belief that they are still going to see growth into the next bull market, or possibly even outperform the market as things do turn around. So now that we have an understanding of where the whales are coming from, let me tell you exactly when I'm planning on buying more Solana, because I do believe that a great buying opportunity could be on the way. So looking at the charts here, of course, we've been talking about recently the fact that Solana is in this descending channel, which historically will break up to the upside. So to make it pretty short, because I did post a full video on this a few days ago, I'm going to personally wait to do the majority of my accumulating until Solana is capable of breaking to the top side of this channel. As I mentioned before, historically, it is going to get that move to the upside. It's simply just a game of waiting for that to happen. You can see that our chart prime market oracle is sitting directly where we are now. So we're back testing and we're holding very well, and it seems as if we could build enough support to get that move towards the top side, but it really just depends on when that happens. But considering the fact that we are seeing some support being held in this channel, and it seems as if we're not going to get that huge break to the downside, I have been doing some dollar cost averaging into my position here, but I'm not doing the most of it until, again, we break resistance to the top side. So it is still a little bit of a waiting game for me with Solana at this point, but I do believe it will be well worth the wait, especially considering I am slowly averaging in as the price does continue to make new lower lows and lower highs in this descending channel. Now, while we are in the process of waiting for Solana to finally make a move out of this channel, I want to tell you all and just kind of talk to you for a split second about what's going on with the meme market, and with everything exploding like Pepe and Floki, I feel like I just want to give you guys a quick little piece of advice. So what we're seeing with that market is a lot of irrationality. A lot of things are going to absolutely explode for no reasoning, no rationality whatsoever. It's just going to pop out of nowhere. And what I want to tell you is that the fundamentals that we talk about for things like Solana, the fundamentals that we talk about for things like XRP, they're not necessarily as applicable to the meme market, so you need to approach it in a different perspective. So here we are on my Patreon. Of course, the link is in the description below, and I want to show you an example of how I use these meme coins to actually make money when it doesn't really work the same way as for something like Solana, which is what we're talking about today. So as you can see here, I put that I just saw that Pepe Floki is planning a 300 BNB buyback. I'm going to throw $300 into it and see what happens. Of course, very high risk. Then a couple hours later, I said that I'm already up $50, that I would let it ride until the morning closer to the buyback, and then I would sell my position. Now, as I woke up that next morning, I was still up about $50, and I decided to close down that position. Now, you know, and coincidentally, the price did rise about 200% from there, so I could have made way more off of it, but I was still able to scalp some pretty good gains and a $50 gain that I could use to do whatever I want. Now, the reason that I ended up finding Pepe Floki was because they're taking the right approach to marketing, because again, it's not really about utility. The reason that these things are so risky is because it's all based around their capability of marketing. And so for Pepe Floki specifically, of course, I noticed that they were doing a huge marketing campaign. They had their DEX launch, they had their CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap campaign, they had that swap and NFT marketplace development announcement, letting people know what they were planning on doing. They had crazy influencer partnerships all over the space, of course, even with some of the guys from my agency, and they were working on certain things like billboard advertisements and things of that nature through their army of the Pepe Floki group. And so, of course, these aren't really the tokens that we talk about on this channel, and it's not really the focus of the channel, but what I can tell you is that there are some fantastic gains to be made with companies and tokens like Pepe Floki that are doing a good job at marketing themselves out to the right communities. So while we're in a situation where we're waiting for our macro cryptos, our big top 10 cryptos to make some movement, and while we're just boringly dollar cost averaging into them, there are ways in which you can scalp some of these micro cap cryptos, but be very, very careful with, you know, which ones you choose, because any of them can be rugs. But in terms of Solana, as I mentioned before, my game plan still remains the same, to watch very closely to these interactions that we get once we finally break out of this channel, and just simply let this thing build up and develop as it needs to. And so I believe it will be incredibly important to watch these whales very closely to see how they react to certain news like we got today, but to also monitor Solana very closely, because it is going to be crucial for them to keep developing and growing like we have seen recently. But if you do want information about exactly when I am going to be buying a load more Solana in the future, make sure that you do go ahead and click on that video right there.